Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in from across the continent and beyond for another very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. Some of my favorite teachers in the crowd today, but a ton of newbies as well. So welcome to the show. If it's your first time joining us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So you can check out this program and like 4,000 others in like 3 weeks, 3 years. Anytime you want to tune in, it's all right there. Just check it out and learn more. Now, a few weeks back, we partnered with the amazing folks at the Disney Conservation Fund and specifically their pollinator program to talk about a Butterflies Day at Disney. And it went so well that their educator extraordinaire, Morgan, agreed to join us again. And you guys responded. We've got over 400 of you today from, I think, like 15 states and provinces across Canada and the US. So really, really exciting to have you back for this. Now, before I turn it over to Morgan to blow your mind with all sorts of cool butterfly stuff, I do want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz, you can do just that for some bragging rights at the midway point. But without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today, Morgan. Welcome back to the broadcast and take us away.
Hi, everyone. Oh gosh, I'm really excited to be back. Last time was so much fun, so I'm so excited to share again with you guys. But my name is Morgan Belle. I'm a conservation programs manager with Disney's Animal Science and Environment. So I live and work here in Orlando, Florida at Walt Disney World. We have a bunch of different theme parks, but I get to work at a few of them, mainly Disney's Animal Kingdom. And my team works with a lot of different animals, and our job is to make Walt Disney World the absolute best it can be for all of the animals that come and visit. And that could be things like sea turtles nesting on the beaches. It could be migratory birds, or in the case of the animals that I work the most with, it's pollinators. So things like bees and butterflies. And today I'm going to talk to you about one specific butterfly and some of the work that I do, and that is the monarch butterfly. So it's this butterfly right here. In my opinion, it's one of the most gorgeous butterflies out there. You can tell me if you have a different favorite, but I think they're these beautiful butterflies, and they make this really incredible journey every single year. But before they make that journey, they've got their life cycle, right? So I kind of want to do a quick recap on the butterfly life cycle. First, you can see on the left-hand side, I think it's your left-hand side, is an egg, and it's teeny tiny, and it looks like this. It's kind of a milky white color if you're out there looking for them. And then once they hatch from their egg, they turn into a caterpillar. You can see that next photo right there. There are really iconic black, white, and yellow stripes, and they grow like crazy at this stage. They're eating a bunch of milkweed, which is their host plant. It's their favorite food. And then they turn into a chrysalis, and they'll be here for a little bit longer. And while they're in that chrysalis, they grow through a crazy transformation. They turn into goo in there, and they turn into a butterfly. It's one of the coolest things, in my opinion, that happens in nature. And then they emerge from that chrysalis as an adult butterfly right there. So that a butterfly that you might see flying around, whether it's a monarch or other species of butterflies, all go through this same life cycle. And then once they go through that life cycle, they're flying around. Once you've got an adult butterfly, it's going places. And one of my favorite facts about the monarch butterfly is that they're one of the most incredibly strong flyers in the insect world. And they can fly really high. And if you put this in Walt Disney World terms, if you stacked 50 Cinderella castles on top of each other, they can actually fly above that. So really strong and high flyers. And they need to be such strong flyers because they make this amazing migration every year down into Mexico, if we're talking about the Eastern population. So this photo right here is millions of monarchs down in Mexico overwintering. So they do this amazing thing where they all fly down there and they hang out down there through the winter together before coming back into the United States. And it's the most incredible looking thing. I've never had the opportunity to see it in person, but I hope I get to one day. But this is a photo of what it looks like. So to get down there, they go through a really impressive migration where they make their way all the way back across the country. And you can see the arrows pointing in both directions on this map. And it just shows how they moved in and out of the United States and up into Canada for that migration. And if you look closely, you can actually see a question mark on Florida. And that's because we're not really sure how they use Florida. There's still a lot of questions about what the monarch butterfly is doing when it passes through Florida. We've got some monarchs that decide Florida's really nice. I actually don't need to go anywhere. I'm going to stay here year round. We call those our resident monarchs. And then we have some that might swing into Florida on their way up and then swing into Florida on their way out, but we're not really sure to what extent that they do this or why they decide to do this versus going through Texas and other parts of the country. So that's some of the work that me and my team are hoping to answer questions about. And so we do that in a few different ways. But I recorded a video last week of me and my coworker Juliana out here working with the monarch butterflies. So I'm going to show you the video. It has no sound, and I'm just going to narrate what we're doing while we go. So we start with the butterfly there in that little envelope. If you look closely, you see it in there. It's called a glassine envelope. It essentially is just a breathable little envelope that holds our monarch in a safe position before we start working with it. So then I'm going to take our butterfly out and start collecting some data. So the first thing that I do is figure out if this butterfly is a male or a female. So I need to look at the wings to do that. In monarch butterflies, it's really easy to tell the difference, which is super nice. The males have 2 little black dots on the back of their wings, and the females don't. So if you ever get to look at a monarch up close, you can tell really easily. And then the next thing I'm going to do is look at the wing condition of this butterfly and make sure that our butterfly looks super healthy and that it can fly really, really well, because we don't want to give the butterfly a tag or any additional weight or stress if it can't handle it. So I'm looking to see if it's missing any scales or potentially has any like little nicks or tears in the wings, but this butterfly looked perfect, which is great. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the length of the wings. And I use a ruler to do this because I'm left-handed and it's the easiest thing when you have a clear ruler to see the numbers. And so the measurement that we're looking at here is essentially what would be our height as humans. I'm looking at the length of the longest part of the wing. And the interesting thing in butterflies is they don't grow over time. Once they've emerged, that's the size that they're going to be their whole life. So knowing how long the wings are gives us an idea of how much they ate and how much nutrition they got when they were caterpillars. And then the next thing I'm doing is using this teeny tiny little piece of tape, and I'm going to take a sample of the scales from the abdomen of our butterfly. And then later I'll put those under a microscope and I'll be able to see if our butterfly has any potential parasites or signs of disease or anything like that. So you can see there's some color on that little sticker there, and that's some scales, and then we'll just put it under a microscope. But this butterfly looked really healthy and didn't have any parasites, which was awesome. So then the next thing that we're going to do is put a tag on our butterfly. So this butterfly is getting 2 different types of tags, and I'll show you an up-close photo of those tags in a second here. But this one's a little sticker and it goes on the wing and it has a number that's unique to this butterfly. So no other butterfly has this number. So if we find this butterfly again, we can go, okay, butterfly 762, for example, was here, and then we found it over here. So we know point A and point B of where this butterfly started. And this is how we found out that monarchs migrate. This is work that has been done for decades at this point, and it's how we learned, oh, butterflies move really, really far, and monarchs specifically move really, really far. But the next thing that we're going to put on this butterfly is some brand new technology that we just started using here at Disney. It's a fancy, teeny tiny little tag. Jules is actually holding on to it right there. You can see it now in my hand. It's a little teeny tiny tag that uses Bluetooth, kind of just like your phones. And we're going to put it on the back of that butterfly, and then we'll be able to see everywhere that butterfly moves across Walt Disney World. So we don't actually ever have to see the butterfly again, but we'll be able to look on our devices and see where it's going and where it likes to hang out. If it's got favorite spots in Disney World, or it's like, I just like this one garden and I don't need to go anywhere else. So to get that tag on, we're going to put that butterfly on that little tray right in front of me, so it's held super safe and is not going to wiggle or move anywhere while we're getting the tag on. And I just picked up the glue that we're going to use, and that is eyelash glue, which might seem really funny, but some research was done and it was determined that that's the absolute best glue and the safest glue that we can use on our butterflies. So that's what we're going to use. So Jules is putting the glue on, And we've weighed our butterfly before this, and then we'll weigh the tag again to make sure that this is enough, that it doesn't weigh too much for our butterflies. But butterflies and insects in general are really, really, really strong. They can carry way more weight than even you or I can. So we know that our butterflies can handle this little bit of weight. But the tags weigh about as much as a grain of rice, which is pretty small and kind of impressive. You can pack that much technology in a teeny tiny little device. So Jules is weighing it right there. She is recording that number. One of the most important things you can do in science, if not the most important thing, is make sure you collect your data accurately. So she's doing a really, really good job of recording all of those numbers. And now we're going to put our butterfly down on this, what we call a spreading board. And so she's holding right there little weighted butterfly wings. Now we're going to move on. She's holding those weighted butterfly wings, and that just holds down our butterfly wings nice and gently so that our friend is not squirming around while we try to put his little tag on. And we made them look like butterfly wings because we think they look a lot more fun that way. So she is giving me a little toothpick so I can move any antenna or any legs out of the way. So our butterfly is perfectly comfortable while he's sitting there. And then she's going to give me the tag. And this is always the really tough part, getting that little teeny tiny tag right on the backs of our butterfly. But we'll see if I can do it. Yep, so it goes right there in between their wings. I think the wind thwarted me here and it flipped it upside down, but there you go. It's right on the back. And then I'll take that toothpick again and I'll just make sure it's sitting super perfectly. I'll adjust it any I need to. And then we will let the butterfly sit there for about 90 seconds for that glue to dry. And then we'll send our butterfly back into the butterfly house or wherever we're releasing it from. So just like that. And we do that every single week with as many butterflies as we can to try to get an idea of how they're using Walt Disney World. And so we'll figure out if they've got spaces they like or if they don't like. And really interestingly, we just recorded a butterfly last week that flew 2 miles. It went from one park to another park, which was really interesting. It found milkweed 2 miles away from where it was, which was really, really impressive. So you can see Lauren and Juliana here with that antenna, and they're actually looking to make sure that the tag is working and that we're seeing the data being picked up in real time. And then on the right there, you can see that butterfly with that tag on its back. So it's got a little itty bitty solar panel. So anytime there's sun, that tag is sending information to us, which is really, really cool. And butterflies and most pollinators in general only like to fly when it's really bright outside. So every time they're up and moving, we're getting information on where they're going. And another thing that I wanted to mention is this is not the only animal that we use this kind of technology with. So we actually use this with another species called purple martins. They're a tiny little bird that migrates here every year from Brazil. And they make this really long journey, and we have a huge population of these purple martins that live here at Walt Disney World. So we've been studying them too. So you can see in that little photo there, they're also wearing a little backpack. It's slightly different and a lot bigger because they can carry something bigger because they're bigger than our butterflies. But we do a similar thing. They actually wear it by wearing a little harness, and they carry it all the way down to Brazil for a year. And when they come back, we retrieve that tag and we can get all of that data off it. And we've learned some really, really cool things with these birds. We know that when they're coming back, they're really ready to get back. And so they actually fly a lot faster and they take a shorter route when they're coming back into the United States. Versus when they're going to Brazil, they're a little slower, they're meandering, they're taking their time, which I think is super interesting. And then the last thing that I want to say about this work is that while maybe not everyone can run around putting tracking devices or tags on monarch butterflies or birds, everyone can get super involved in helping the monarch butterfly and other pollinators and other things in your backyard. And it's as easy as getting outside, right? I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a bunch of big, crazy, charismatic animals in my backyard. I don't have tigers or elephants or things like that, but I definitely have bugs and I definitely have butterflies. So I really encourage you guys to go outside and maybe find a plant in your area, either on your patio or on your walk to school or wherever it may be, and hang out for a minute and see what you can find. You might not see something right away, but I bet that if you sit down for a second and just take a look, you'll probably see an animal hanging around. And then you can figure out what it is. Get curious, ask some questions, see if you can figure out what animal you're looking at and learn something new about it. And then you can share that with a friend and, be scientists yourselves. So that's what I got for you. I am excited to answer any questions you have.
Amazing, Morgan. Well, on that last note, I want to say when I was the age of our students in our classes, I went to my backyard and I found 72 species when I was 10 years old. And that was with like a magnifying glass and paper and pencils. So there's so much to discover. And we encourage classes in a lot of our programs. Use iNaturalist. If you want to find out what lives near you, you can literally type in your city, type in your town, see all the things that other people have taken pictures of, and then go out and find and explore with them yourself. So no better message than get outdoors and explore. And what cool work you guys are up to at Disney. I'm a professional detachment is out the window. I just sound like the best job in the whole world. Well, before we dive in with questions, to be professional, we are going to do our Kahoot together. So Morgan, if you want to help us out with any of these hints as we go along in our Kahoot, we've already got a bevy of classes in the Kahoot. And if you are new to this, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is Morgan and I's everlasting respect. So with that said, I'm going to kick us off and get underway, and then we are going to dive in with questions both from our live and YouTube classes. So YouTubers, start sharing those questions anytime. Live classes, I'm coming to you all. But Morgan, if you're ready for this, let's do it.
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Drum roll, please. And 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's slower in live than it is on my screen. Not 3, 2, 1 yet. There we go. Quiz number 1. Okay. There are about 6,000 species of mammal. How many insect species are there? As Morgan said, when you go in your backyard, you find kinds of insects every time, and different kinds of insects. And if you go to like a rainforest, there's even more. Are there 150 kinds of insect? Are there 6,002 like mammals? Are there 10,000? Or, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, are there at least a million? Which is a crazy amount if you think about it. A million different kinds of insect. And in fact, there's many more than that. We know of at least 2 million, I think, now. And we think there might be 30 million kinds of insect on this planet, which is crazy. And most of our audience got this right. Go big. Every time you do a Kahoot with me, the biggest answer is almost always the right one because I like big things. All right. Wise Hawk has our lead. Question 2. Insect numbers worldwide. Are they increasing? Are they going up? Are there more bugs than ever? Are they staying the same? Are they going down? Are there fewer bugs than there were before? Or do we have no idea? It's hard to count. We don't know. Maybe that's not our answer. If you saw Morgan, her and her team do such amazing stuff, capturing insects, putting trackers on them. So we are starting to learn a lot about insects around the world. What is their status? And so, ooh, look at this mix. Wow. You almost never get like a dead even. So the answer is going down. Like all species on this planet, we are losing a few insects, and it sort of underscores why it's so important that Morgan and her team are doing such great work to understand and help protect insects like the monarch butterfly. So that's a good piece of knowledge for all of you going forward in our Kahoot. Wise Hawk has our lead still. 2 more questions. The world's largest butterfly. Morgan, do you want to give us a hint for this? Instead of what?
I would say it might be pretty big.
Pretty big. I know I just said a minute ago that I often go for the biggest. Maybe I didn't go for the biggest this time because 5 feet's pretty big. If there's a butterfly that big, I might be a little scared. I gotta say might be too much.
Maybe a little too big.
Yeah, but good mix. A lot of you thought 7. The answer is 11 inches, so about a dinner plate. The Queen Alexandra's birdwing is an amazing butterfly. Imagine something the size of a plate flying towards you, and you can get some sense of this incredible animal. Do look them up. They're so neat. That throws off our whole leaderboard. Inspired Mouse takes our lead. As we go to our final question before we go for our Q&A, what can you do to help butterflies? We talked about a little of this. Can you tell your friends and family what you learned today? Can you buy sustainably sourced products so they're not cutting down the rainforest to hurt the butterflies? Can you take action on climate change? Or, hint, hint, nudge, nudge again, can you do all of the above? Which also may be a very popular answer that I like to throw into Kahoots a lot. I think you guys are going to be on the ball for this. Let's see what we got. Yes, all of the above is the correct answer. Honestly, telling family and friends, your family and friends might not know as much about butterflies as you do now from just joining in on this presentation. So if you share what you learned, that goes a long way because we can't protect stuff unless we understand it. So with that, our final tally, yes, 2233, Inspired Mouse is our Kahoot winner. If you are any of those people. Way to go. And congrats to everyone for playing. Our Toronto, Connecticut, Miss Tolmans class, if you guys want to get ready, I'll come to you live. Please feel free to flick on your mics. But so many great questions from our chat. So Morgan, Miss Jouclass class, they're in New Jersey. They want to know, how long do the monarch butterflies live? What's their life expectancy?
Ooh, this is a great question. So most monarchs live 2 to 3 weeks. And most of their life cycle is about 2 to 3 weeks for each stage: egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, and adult. But there's a special generation of the monarch butterfly that lives 9 months. So its job is to fly all the way down from wherever it is in the United States down to Mexico. So everything else is kind of on pause, and its only job, the only thing it wants or knows to do is get to Mexico. So it eats, it finds some milkweed, it eats, and it gets to Mexico. So those ones live 9 months.
Cool. How neat is that? It's sort of rare that we have something that's sort of like an outlier and something like that when we have that question. So I really like that one. Thanks, guys. All right. Mr. Giano's group wants to know, why do you glue them when you're putting the trackers on? What's the deal with that?
So the glue is the easiest way to do it. Unlike a lot of larger animals that you could potentially kind of use backpack that we kind of think to wear over our shoulders, or a harness that you would wear for like bungee jumping or something. It's not so easy on an insect or a butterfly, but they do kind of have a hard spot right in between their wings that's perfect for putting that tag on. And so the glue is the easiest way to do that. It's going to, inhibit the least amount of movement of the butterfly versus if we were to put something around the wings or around the legs. And some previous research was done to figure out the best kind of glue. And they came up with eyelash glue. They found out that was the safest and the easiest and dried the quickest. So there you go.
Cool. How neat is that? I love when sort of you have a solution that comes from an unexpected source, and this happens in conservation and nature a lot. Yeah. Very cool question. Thanks, guys. All right, Southside, I'm going to come to you guys in Connecticut. If you have a question and the audio is working, let's check it out and see. Hey, guys. Hi. Do you have a question for Morgan?
Yeah. I put it in there. What's the name of the biggest butterfly?
Ooh, the name of the biggest butterfly.
Ooh, there's a lot of big ones. What is the biggest one? I'm blanking on its name off the top of my head. I can picture it. The one you just showed. Jesse, What is it?
Queen Alexandra's birdwing.
Thank you. I was going to say bird eater, but I was like, nope, that's a spider.
That's a big spider. That's the biggest spider.
Exactly.
Bird is in the name of everything. They're always comparing insects and arachnids to birds for some reason.
They always are.
Huh, great question, you guys.
Yeah.
All right, more from YouTube, and then our StreamYard classes, please do feel free to share in the chat on the side as well. We'd love to hear from you. Miss Raheem's class, welcome in Gambrels. They want to know, is there more than one type of monarch butterfly?
Ooh, not technically. There are 2 different populations, and so we have the eastern population and we have the western population. They're split by the Rocky Mountains, but they're technically the same species of butterfly.
Very, very cool. We got it. That was a really quick answer, so we're going to go to another one from them. How many eggs can a female lay in her lifetime?
Ooh, a couple hundred. They can lay a lot of eggs, but they lay 1 egg at a time. So sometimes you'll see butterflies or other insects that will lay kind of a clump of eggs together. If you're looking for monarch eggs, they're always individual all over the milkweed plant, but you'll see a bunch all over the plant.
Yeah. How neat is that? It's funny. It's the rare instances of, I would have thought it would be more. I would have thought it would be in the thousands. So hundreds is like it's not a letdown, but it's good to know. Miss Tolman's class wants to know, how many butterflies live at Disney World? Do you have a bunch at Animal Kingdom or beyond?
Ooh, we have a lot of butterflies. I can tell you that we've counted over 70 species of butterflies visiting Walt Disney World, which is a lot considering we only have near 200 in Florida. So we've got a lot of those butterfly species living and making use of Walt Disney World. As far as actual number goes, we've counted well above the thousands in terms of individual butterflies that we've recorded.
Cool. Thanks, Morgan. And I'll take the questions from the chat. Don't worry about that. We got so many coming in on YouTube as well. Wow. We have more questions than we could probably even take in our Q&A already, which is a great problem to have. Thank you guys for being a super keen audience. All right. Mr. Townsend's class wants to know, what is Mickey's favorite butterfly? No pressure at all.
Oh, gosh. Well, I haven't asked him, so I don't know for sure. But I would like to think that he would either say the monarch or the zebra longwing, because it's the state butterfly of Florida.
Pretty cool. That's a good answer. Very tactful on behalf of Mickey in this program. That was a tricky one, but another one for Mr. Townsend's class is, how long does a monarch caterpillar sleep before it becomes a butterfly when it's in the chrysalis?
Ooh, when it's in the chrysalis, it can be anywhere between 8 and 15 days. It kind of depends on weather and some other factors, but generally like 8 to 15. And they do this cool thing where they essentially like turn into goo inside.
Yes.
And turn into a butterfly. It's crazy.
So I love harping in this because when I was a boy, I thought like, okay, caterpillar goes to his cocoon and maybe gets like a little smaller and the wings pop out of the caterpillar and he's great. It's like, no, it turns to mush. Like imagine you went into your room and you like melted and then you came out and you were totally different the next day. It's insane. It's one of the coolest things in nature. We should all be going like, oh, every time we think about caterpillars and chrysalis, they're so cool.
Yeah. Okay. And if you get a chance to see the chrysalid right before it emerges, it actually turns translucent. So you can see the wings and you can kind of start to see the adult butterfly before it emerges, which is really cool.
I'm really lucky where I live, and it's really unexpected. I'm in rural Newfoundland on the west side of the province, on the east side of Canada, and we have an insectarium with all sorts of chrysalises that you can see like 20 minutes away, and it's one of the most amazing things you'll ever see is to see a butterfly come out of a chrysalis. I hope everyone gets that chance in their life. Travel to go see it if you can. It will change you forever. It's so, so neat. Mm-hmm. All right. Miss Grimm's class now has a bunch of questions on YouTube, and then we're going to go back to our StreamYard classes. Do types of butterflies fight each other, and how many days do they all live?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that question, so good job on asking me a brand new question. Butterflies they're not incredibly territorial or anything like that. So they'll exist happily together. Sometimes you see this really cool thing called a puddle of butterflies. Butterflies have a big straw on the front of their face, so they don't have mouth parts or anything like that. So they suck up everything that they need to drink. And sometimes they want a little extra nutrients or salts or minerals or things like that. So if you see kind of a puddle of, moisture or water on the ground and a bunch of butterflies hanging out together, sometimes you'll see a bunch of different species all making use of that space. And that's because they found a nice puddle that's easy for them to access that might have a bunch of those salts and minerals that they're looking for. And they're all sitting there sucking it up with the straw on their face.
You can really see that at insectariums where they'll put like a little, thing of sugar water and there'll be like 100 butterflies around it all. Like it's like gazelles at like a oasis in the desert. It's very, very cool. Again, go see a zoo if you can. It's so, so neat. All right. Miss Tolman's class wants to know, how does a monarch butterfly make their chrysalis? How do you even begin to make a cocoon for yourself? What's the deal?
It's really impressive. So the thing that they'll do, they'll first find a really good spot. And once they find a place that is kind of protected and safe from the elements, generally away from their host plant, they'll kind of leave the milkweed and they'll find a nice little safe space. And then they'll spin what's called a silk pad kind of on that spot, make sure it's nice and secure. And then they'll do something called a J hook. And so they'll take part of their body and they'll wiggle it around on that little silk pad until it hooks perfectly. So it's super tight. And then they'll kind of hang in a J shape and they'll slowly transform into that chrysalis. And it's really impressive. It happens super, super quickly. And then they hang in there and then they emerge into the butterfly. And they've got a little special appendage. If you ever have the chance to look really closely at a chrysalis, the part that is connecting kind of the green chrysalis to the silk pad is called the cremaster. And it's kind of like a little stem, but it hangs out there just while they are in that chrysalis and then disappears after that. So it's really impressive that each stage of the butterfly has exactly what it needs to do its job.
Yeah. How neat is that? I've never heard that whole story before. So that was really, again, so, so neat for me. I love having all these classrooms on. You guys are the reason that we do all this. But I've got to say, as a fan, this is just so fun to hear all this stuff and learn things every day. So thank you, Morgan. All right. Mr. Heem's class has a great question. How do monarch butterflies choose their destination to migrate to?
That is a great question. And we don't really know, to be totally honest. We know that they are really, really good at orienting to where they need to get to. Back to that same exact spot in Mexico, where if we're talking about the Western population to the coast, every single year. but we don't really know totally how they do it. But we know that if you potentially raise monarchs indoors and they don't have access to all of the same elements in nature that they normally would, that they're not so good at figuring out where they need to go. So we know it has something to do with being outside, potentially, the stars and things like that, but we're not totally sure. But we know they're really, really good at it.
Yeah, I want to say this is true for pretty much every animal. We're actually like in the infancy of understanding how and why animals go where they go. It's really, really neat cutting edge science. And so we're learning a lot more of this with trackers like we were able to put on monarchs now. But stay tuned for more on this. And maybe by the time you guys are old enough, you could be scientists that help figure out things like this. So very cool, Morgan. All right. Miss Jouclass wants to know, can butterflies fly in the rain? Can you give us a bit of a perspective on what rain might be and feel like to a butterfly?
Gosh, generally no, right? Because most butterflies are pretty teeny tiny, and a raindrop is really, really big to a butterfly. And so most of the time they're going to avoid it at all costs, because one little raindrop, if it hits a wing, can be kind of tough to fly through. So most of the time, butterflies and other pollinators, bees and things like that, are not going to fly unless it's super warm and sunny outside and clear skies, just because that's the easiest for them. Even if it's super, super windy and not raining, they're going to choose not to fly, because even wind that would be fine for us to walk around in might blow them off course too much. So they're little guys who, perspective wise, it might be too much.
Yeah, even that Queen Alexandra's birdwing, like this is a huge butterfly the size of a dinner plate. Raindrops to it would be like baseballs to you. Like you're not going to walk outside if you're being hit by hail-sized baseballs or vice versa. Very, very cool question, guys. Morgan, if someone wanted to come to Disney and learn about the butterflies there, is there a place that they can go? Is it Animal Kingdom? Do you have a special site for some of the work that you do? What's the deal?
Yeah, so at Disney's Animal Kingdom, we have a pollinator garden at Rafiki's Planet Watch. So if you get on the train and you go over to Rafiki's Planet Watch and Conservation Station, we've got this big, beautiful pollinator garden designed to attract as many butterflies as possible. So that's always a really, really great spot to stop by and see some of the work that we're doing. We've got people who go out and survey those gardens every single week. So there's a good chance you'll catch someone out there who's looking for butterflies and bees, and you can help them on that work. And then if you happen to be at Epcot, which is our other park, during Flower and Garden Festival, which is happening right now, where those videos were taken that you saw a minute ago, we've got a big butterfly house called Butterfly Landing that guests can walk through for the duration of the festival. And then every week they can come see us tagging those butterflies in the park.
I am off to the airport right now where that insectarium is, and I'm just going to fly right to you guys and go check it out. Sounds like a hoot. Morgan, time flies and you're having fun. We are nearing the end of the broadcast. Now, you did highlight going into your backyard, seeing all the amazing insects that might live near you. Is there any other final message you want to leave us with before we say thank you and farewell to all our amazing classes today?
I would just say get outside and stay curious. And if you really want to do something super tangible to help butterflies and other pollinators, you can plant a bunch of flowers. That is the absolute best thing we can do for our insect friends.
No better message than that. A lot of our classrooms and homes, you guys are already doing this sort of thing, but pollinator garden info, you can find this online. The Xerces Society, so Xerces, has some really great guides on what sort of plants you should be planting near you. So I really encourage you to check that out. We're going to pass along all these resources and more to all our registered classes, but StreamYard classes, YouTube classes, if you want to scream and yell and annoy the principal, you have our permission. Please do. And thank you so much for joining. We hope to see you again soon and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now, guys.